Like what we are going to do today is like I will tell you the skills that are required for a Salesforce DevOps engineer, and post that I will show you the topics which we are going to cover as part of this particular course. And after that, I will show you something a migration using one of the tool. So like we'll come to that later. So before that, so let me quickly check. Okay. So, okay. So first thing is before I explain you the skills that are required for this particular role. So what I will do is I will explain you few terms. So like after explaining you the terms, we will move on to the skills that are required for this particular role. So now when it comes to the terms, like a few terms which you should be aware of. First thing is you should be knowing like what is meant by environment. So environment means in programming terminology. So environment is a place where an application lives in. So it is a place where an application lives or runs. And so next is, so there is something called as live environment. So live environment is the place where the application will be used by end users. So we can call this as end users, or it can also be like end users can also be called as customers. So the primary goal of building any application is every application will be used by a certain group of users who will be called as either customers or end users. So live environment is a place where the application will be used by the end users. Now I am saying that environment is a place where an application lives or runs in. So, in order to understand this in a better way, what you can do is you can imagine, you can take the example of the application that runs either on your mobile or the application that runs on any computer. So like if you take what happens with an application either on the computer or on a mobile phone, what happens is we will have hardware layers. We will have something called as memory, CPU, and as well as on top of memory and CPU, we will have something called as operating system. And on top of operating system, there will be few other external softwares or few other softwares which will be installed on top of operating system as well. And on top of that, we will have something called we will install that specific application. So if you look at the things that are required for that particular application to run. So on the bottom of the application, we have uh, the operating system, and below the operating system, we have something called as hardware layers as well. So together, all of these makes the environment which will be required for an application to run. So you can imagine environment in that way. So in simple terms, environment is nothing but it is a place where an application lives or runs in. And when it comes to live environment, it is the place where the application will be used by end users or customers, because the primary purpose of building any application is in order to make some kind of business from it. Like there will be certain group of users who will be using the application, and the primary purpose of building any application is making some business out of it. You can imagine this to the applications. Like you can compare this with the applications which you will be using in your real time. So nowadays, what happens is we will be using a lot of applications. So even on our mobile devices, we will be using a lot of applications. So we are nothing but the end users for that particular application. Next thing is, so the reason why I am explaining you these terms is so there is a reason. So in order to understand the meaning of DevOps, first you should understand these terms. So otherwise you won't be able to understand. So apart from the environment and live environment, so few other things which you should be aware of is like for some reasons for some reasons in the software world, what happens is like the development of application doesn't happen in live environment. So the development of application happens in some other environment, which will be called as development environments. So there are reasons for this. So there are a few reasons because of which development of any application can't be done directly in live environment. So and the place where the development of application happens, or where the application will be built, is called as development environment. And so once an application is built, so it won't be moved directly to the live environment. So what happens is like first it will be moved to something called as testing environment. And in testing environment, what happens is like the features which are built by the development team will be tested in the testing environment. And post successful testing, what happens is like the application will be moved to the live environment. Now, so before I explain you how the migration happens from one environment to another environment, so let me tell you one more thing. So there is something called as software development lifecycle. So SDLC is a shortcut for software development lifecycle. So now the time period from planning to have a application to making the application available for end users is called as. So, okay. So, like, actually, like, what I was trying to say is, like, I was like explaining you these terms, like environment, live environment, development environment, testing environment. So, so environment is a place where an application lives or runs in. So, like these are nothing but the points which I iterated a couple of minutes back. So now I'm telling you about this term, which is called as SDLC. So there is something called as SDLC. So SDLC is a shortcut for software development lifecycle. So the period from like the time period from planning to have an application to making the application available for end users is called as software development lifecycle. So now, whenever a company or business plans to have an application, so what happens is like first initially what happens is like based on the kind of business which they are doing, what they will do is like they will think on what are all the features their application should have. So this particular period or phase will be called as planning phase. So in the planning phase, what happens is the company or business which are require application, what they will do is, so they will think on what are all the features which their application should have. So like it depends on the kind of business which a company does. So, like based on the business that is done by the company, what happens is like they will think on the features that should be part of their application. So this happens in the planning phase. So after the planning phase, so generally like what happens is like one more thing is mostly these businesses or companies will reach out to something called as the software companies in order to get their application built. So generally like the application building will be done by the software companies, and when it comes to the software companies, like there will be different teams involved in the building of application. So we will be having something called as we will be having someone called as product managers, we'll be having someone called as architects, and we will be having someone called as developers, and we will be having someone called as testers. Similarly, like we will be having someone called as DevOps engineers as well. So like there will be on a high level, there will be these many different types of people who will be involved in building the application. So whenever a company plans to have an application, what happens is they will reach out to a software company, and they will explain them the kind of business which they are doing. So based on this, based on the kind of business which the company does, what happens is like these software companies, what they will do is, so they will gather all of the requirements or features, requirements of that particular business. After gathering that particular requirements, what they will do is like they will also check with the business on the features that should be part of their application. So once they do this, what happens like the next things happens. Like whenever a company, whenever a business narrates the requirements to a software company, so the software company doesn't directly start the development of the application. So there will be a process which will be followed in order to build the application. So SDLC is nothing but, so like it is one process, like it is a kind of process which will be followed in the process of building an application. So you can remember SDLC in that way, or so we can tell SDLC as the time period from planning to have an application to making the application available for end users. So this will be called as software development lifecycle. So I am saying that so SDLC is nothing but it is a process which will be followed in the process of building an application. So when it comes to SDLC, like there are different phases in it. So like when it comes to the phases of SDLC, so let me show you. So like these are the phases of SDLC. So like in SDLC, we will be having phases like planning phase, defining phase, designing phase, building phase, testing phase, and deployment phase. So in each phase, what happens like there will be something something happens in each phase. So when it comes to planning phase, so like in the planning phase, what happens is like business will think on like what are all the features that should be part of their application. So it is nothing but they will just plan to have an application, and they will also think on the future that should be part of their application. So that happens in the planning phase. And after this, so like the next phase will be defining phase. In the defining phase, what happens like uh, all of the features that should be part of their application will be documented. So will be documented or they will be kept on a paper. So that happens in the defining phase. And in the designing phase, what happens is like the like based on the requirements that are gathered in these the defining and planning phase, what happens is like in the designing phase, so like people will based on the requirements that should be part of their application, so people will choose a platform on which that particular application should be built. And after that, so they will also figure out all of the things that needs to be done on that particular platform in order to build the in order to build that particular application. So in this particular phase, what happens is like people will choose the platform on which that particular application should be built, and they will also figure out all of the things that should be implemented in order to build that particular application. So that happens in designing phase. Next comes the building phase. So in the building phase, what happens is like the actual development of the application starts in the building phase. So building is nothing but we can also call it as development phase. So here, when it comes to designing phase, generally architects will be involved in design phase, because the architects will choose the platform on which the particular application should be built in. And even the architects, what they will do is they will also figure out all of the things which should be implemented in order to implement all of the requirements of that particular application. So in the designing phase, architects will be involved, and in the planning phase and defining phase, typically project managers or delivery managers or someone similar to those roles will be involved. So in the designing phase, architects will be involved, or sometimes what happens is like even lead developers or someone called as technical leads also will be involved in the designing phase. And in the building phase, the actual development of the application begins. And here in this building phase, what happens is like the developers will be involved. So like the architect will pass all the things that needs to be implemented in order to build the application to the development team. So development teams will start building those requirements in this particular phase. And then next comes the testing phase. So in the testing phase, what happens is like all of the features which are built by the development team will be tested by testers in this particular testing phase. So after this, so the next phase will be deployment phase. So deployment phase is nothing but in this particular phase, what happens is like uh, the features or the features which are built by the development team will be released due to something called as live environment, or making the features which are built by the development team available to end users will be carried out in this particular deployment phase. Now, like out of all of these phases, we will be primarily involved in we will be involved in these three phases: the building phase, testing phase, and deployment phase. So as a DevOps engineer, we will be involved in these three phases of software development lifecycle. Now, let me tell you the reasons why the development of an application, development of an application, can't be done directly in live environment, and why the development of why the testing of an application can't be done in the live environment. So now, in order to understand this, let's you can take a simple example of a banking application. So now, when it comes to banking application, so the primary purpose of any banking application will be in order to transfer money from one account to another account. So let's assume the case of we have two accounts, account one and account two. So let's assume that the balance in account one is some 2 lakhs, and let's assume the balance in account two is some 50K. Now let's assume these two accounts. Now, so when it comes to banking application, what happens is like the primary purpose will be in order to transfer money from one account to another account. So each person will have a separate bank account, and they will transfer money from their accounts to some other account. So if you take the case of this, give me a minute. Okay, so if you take the case of this particular banking application, and let's assume that we have two accounts. One account has a balance of 2 lakhs, and the other account has a balance of 50K. So now let's assume that the person, the account holder of this particular account, transferred a money of 1 lakh from his account to account 2. Now, so when this person transfers a money of 1 lakh from his account to account 2, so the first thing that needs to be checked is first thing is the system or program should automatically check whether the balance is in his account is either equal to 1 lakh or greater than 1 lakh. So if it is less than 1 lakh, so what should happen is this particular transaction should not happen. So first thing that needs to be checked is it should check whether the balance in his particular account is either equal to or greater than that particular amount which he is going to transfer. And the next thing is once he transferred this particular amount, what should happen is the balance in his account should get updated, and it should get updated in such a way that the transferred amount should be deducted from the balance. So that should happen, and after this what happens is this 1 lakh amount should be credited to this particular account too. So that is nothing but the balance in his account, in account 2, should get updated to 1.5 lakh. So now if you take if you imagine this particular requirement, so suppose consider the case of this kind of application was directly built in live environment, and it was built directly in live environment, and if this application is built in the live environment, and when people start sending the money, so what happened is they noticed even though the money in the even though the money in the account from which we are doing the transaction is not either equal to or greater than the money which we are going to transfer. So people notice that the transactions are happening even though the money in the account from which we are doing the transactions is less than the amount to be transferred. Even though the transactions are happening in that particular case, so if people notice this kind of issue in production, what happens is it is nothing but it is a kind of loss to the company or business whichever is running this particular application. And apart from that, so they will also people will also lose trust on that particular company or bank whichever is whichever has provided this particular application. So this is one kind of issue that happens if we directly build an application in live environment. And another kind of issue is when we build the application in live environment, what happens end users will not be able to use that particular application. when we start implementing the things directly in live environment, what happens is the application stuck for some reason, and the end users will not be able to access the particular application. So they, likewise there will be like uh, few other reasons because of which the development of application can't be done directly in live environment. So this is a simple example which I took. You can imagine, like you can take any other examples, and you can imagine the things the issues which comes when we develop an application directly in live environment. So now what you can remember is for there are few reasons because of which the application of the development of an application can't be done in live environment. You can remember in that way. So when it comes to the reasons, we will discuss about the reasons in a later or separate session. So now, because of some reasons, the development of application can't be done in live environment. And similarly, because of some reasons, even the testing of the application can't be done in live environment. So there are reasons for that. And the reason is nothing but as the development can't be done in live environment, even the testing also can't be done in live environment. Because what testers will do is they will test the features or things which are built by the development team in the environment, wherever those features are available. So as the development can't be done directly in the testing environment, in the live environment, even the testing also can't happen directly in the live environment. Now, what happens is because of these reasons, as there are few reasons because of which the development of application can't be done in live environment. The development of application happens in a separate environment, which will be called as development environment. Now, because of few reasons, the testing of application even can't be done in development environment. So because of that, what happens is the testing of the application will happen in testing environment. And after successful testing, what happens is the application code will be moved to live environment. So here what happens is once the application features are built in development environment, so the changes or application code will be moved from the application code will be moved from development environments to testing environments, and from testing environments the application code will be moved to live environment. So moving the code can also be called as migration as well. So the application code will be migrated from development environments to testing environments, and from testing environments to a post successful testing. So post successful testing, the application code will be moved from testing environments to live environments. So on a high level, this is how development of a software application happens. Now, so making the application available for end users is nothing but that can be called as delivering the application. So it can be called as delivering the application. Now, when it comes to the definition of DevOps, so DevOps is a process which will be used uh, in delivering a software application. So DevOps is if someone asks you what is mean by DevOps, if it is a tool or if it is a technology. So it is not either a single tool or it is not a technology. DevOps is nothing but it is a process which will be used in the process of delivering a application. So in order to understand what is this process, and how it will be used in delivering the application. So first you need to understand how the development of application happens, and how we can migrate the changes from one environment to another environment. So we will come to this process later, because in order to understand this process, you need to understand what are all the challenges that will be faced by the development teams while working in the development environment, and what are all the challenges that will be faced by people while migrating the things from development environments to testing environments. So we will come to this part later. But for now, simplest definition of DevOps can be this one. So it is nothing but DevOps is a process which will be used in delivering a application. So, but this is one of the simplest definition. But the actual definition is So DevOps is a process which improves, which improves the efficiency of software development lifecycle. So this is the technical and standard definition of DevOps. So it is a process which improves the efficiency of software development lifecycle. Now, in order to understand this statement, so it says that it is a process which improves the efficiency of software development lifecycle. Now, so in order to understand this, first you need to understand the challenges or disadvantages in the process of in the process of developing an application. So the application development process itself is called a software development lifecycle. And in order to understand how it improves the efficiency, first you need to understand the challenges which people will face in the process of developing an application. So, so these things, in order to understand these things, so if I tell you those things now, you won't be able to understand. So first, what we will do is first we will see how we can migrate changes from one environment to another environment. And after seeing that, so I will come to this particular definition again, and I will tell you how DevOps will improve the efficiency of software development lifecycle. Now, the next thing is, I said to you that like a few terms, what is meant by SDLC, like what is meant by environment, and how the application development happens. Now, the next thing is when it comes to the primary activities which will be done by a Salesforce DevOps engineer. So what we will be doing is, so we will be responsible for we will be responsible for creating the environments, and we will be also responsible for migrating code from one environment to another environment. Another environment. So these are the primary activities which a Salesforce DevOps engineer will do. So when it comes to creation of environments, so creation of environments is a very simple thing on Salesforce platform. So it is a very simple thing. So you don't even require much knowledge in order to create environment on Salesforce platform. When it comes to migrating code from one environment to another environment, so what happens is the migration of code, in order to migrate code from one environment to another environment, so there are lot of tools available in the market. So there are a lot of tools available in the market. So the tools which helps in migrating code from one environment to another environment can be called as build tools. So when it comes to the build tools, so one of the most popular build tool available on Salesforce platform is SFDX, and there is something called as ant migration tool as well. So build tools, what build tools will do is they will help us in migrating code from one environment to another environment. So first thing is, what we are going to do is we will see how we can migrate code using SFDX, and post SFDX we will also see how we can migrate code using ant migration tool as well. So apart from this, there are lot of other tools available in the market using which we can migrate code from one environment to another environment. So as migrating code is a primary activity of a Salesforce DevOps engineer. So what we will do is first we will concentrate on this thing, how we can migrate code from one environment to another environment. So in order to do this, what we will do is we will create two sample environments. So we will consider one as a development environment, and we will consider one as a QA environment. So we will create these two environments, and we will practice things on these two environments. We will create some components in this development environment, and we will migrate those components or code from development environment to QA environment. So that's how we will learn these build tools. So first we will start with SFDX, and we will learn how we can migrate code from one environment to another environment. Now, so before doing that, so let me tell you what is meant by application as well. So application is nothing but, so application on any programming application in programming terminology is nothing but it is a collection of components. So like this is one definition of an application. So it is a collection of components. So in order to build an application, what people will do is the developers will make use of a lot of components. Will make use of a lot of components, or so like they will create a lot of components in order to build an application. So in simple terms, you can remember an application is nothing but a collection of components. Now, so when it comes to migration of code from one environment to another environment, so what we will do is like we will migrate these components from one environment to another environment. So when it comes to migration of components from one environment to another environment, so what happens like there will be few special types of components. Like if you want to migrate those types of components, what happens like there will be few rules which you should keep in mind. So generally, like in order to migrate code from one environment to another environment, so like the steps or process which we follow remains the same. But while migrating certain types of components, there are a few rules which you should keep in mind. So otherwise, the exact changes won't get migrated. So like first thing is like we will see like how we can migrate code from one environment to another environment, and next is like we will see what are all the rules or special types that we should remember while migrating the components. Like initial 4 or 5 sessions, we will concentrate on these two things. So post that. So after this, what happens? Like we will see what is mean by version control system, and after seeing version control system, so what happens? Like we will also see like the other tools that are available for migration as well. Now, when it comes to migrating code from one environment to another environment, so we won't directly migrate the code from environment to environment directly. What happens? Like the code will be the code will be first pushed to something called as version control system. So the examples of version control system is like one example of a version control system is Git. So what happens like from the development environment, so we won't push the code directly to the QA environment. So we will push the code first to version control system, and from version control system we will push the code to the QA environment or the next environment. So that's how the changes migrate from one environment to another environment. So we will discuss how this happens once the actual course starts. Now, what I will do is I will show you the course content which we are going to cover as part of this particular course. So when it comes to the course content, so first thing is like in order to handle the activities of this particular role, you should have some understanding on Salesforce administration. Like if you have Salesforce, the reason why you should have knowledge on Salesforce administration is, so while doing this migration, we will get few kind of issues. So like in order to resolve those issues, what happens is like you should have knowledge on Salesforce administration. So without which, what happens is like you won't be able to resolve those issues by yourself. You need to take some other help. Like you can take the assistance of developers in order to resolve those issues. So like one reason is that. The other reason is like there will be few kind of things which can't be migrated using build tools. So the things which can't be migrated using build tools, what happens is like this will be done manually. So in order to do the manual things as well, you will require some Salesforce administration knowledge. So one of the skill which you will require in order to handle the activities of Salesforce DevOps engineer is Salesforce administration. Okay, so actually, like I am showing you this particular document which contains all of the topics which we are going to cover as part of this particular course. So you can get in touch with the institute people, and you can get this document, because even they have this course content document. So you can get this document from them, and you can go through this. So with where you can find all of the topics which we are going to cover as part of this particular course. So now, apart from Salesforce administrative skill, so you should have knowledge on the build tools. So like when it comes to the build tools, like one of the most commonly used build tool on Salesforce platform is SFDX. So apart from SFDX, we also have something called as Ant migration tool. So like we are going to cover these two build tools. So apart from these build tools, there are a few other tools available in the market as well. But so like SFDX is like you can consider this like a parent of all the other build tools. Like many tools are built making use of SFDX or built on top of SFDX. So we are going to cover if you have an understanding on one build tool, so it will be simpler to understand the other build tool as well. So here what we are going to do is like we are going to see two build tools. One is SFTX and the other one is Workbench as well. So similarly, like there is also a tool called as Workbench. So we are also going to see how we can migrate the code using Workbench as well. So after that, so apart from the knowledge of build tools, you should have knowledge on Git as well. So what is mean by Git, and what are all the features? What are all the features of a Git? So you should have a knowledge on Git as well. And apart from Git, so you should have knowledge on how the environments can be created on Salesforce platform. And apart from that, so you should have knowledge on how we can set up the DevOps process for a Salesforce project using either one or two tools. So now what we are going to do is like we are going to cover three tools as part of this particular course. So we are going to set up the DevOps process. We'll set up the process similar to the real-time process by using three tools. So one is Copado, and when it comes to Copado, what happens is like there are two variants of Copado. So one is Copado and the other one is Copado Essentials. So out of these two variants, Copado is the most commonly used variant. So we are going to cover these two, Copado as well as Copado Essentials. And apart from Copado, so we are also going to set up the process using SFDX and GitHub Actions as well as SFDX and Bitbucket pipelines. So now when it comes to setting up the process using SFDX and GitHub Actions or SFDX and Bitbucket pipelines, so you will require knowledge on Shell and YAML scripting. Like when it comes to the knowledge on Shell and YAML scripting, so even you don't need to be expert on these two languages in the initial stages, but once you start growing in this area, as you gain experience, what happens is you should have knowledge on Shell and YAML as well. So what we are going to do is we are going to see how YAML in detail, and some basics of shell scripting. So the reason why we are covering this shell and YAML scripting is like when you configure something called as GitHub Actions and Bitbucket pipelines, it requires knowledge on shell and YAML. So these are the three tools which we are going to cover as part of this particular tool. One is Copado, and the other one is SFDX and GitHub Actions, and the other one is SFDX and Bitbucket pipelines. So apart from these three tools, there are a lot of tools available in the market. So the reason why we are not covering all of the tools is if we keep on adding the tools, what happens the number of hours that takes in order to complete the course gets increased. And one more reason is if you get an understanding on how we can implement the things using either one or two tools, so you will be in a position to implement the things using any other tool as well. So the only thing that gets changed from one tool to another tool is the process remains the same, but the way how we will configure the things gets changed. So that's the reason we are not going to cover a lot of tools, as it increases the number of hours. And it also there won't be even you will also feel the sessions as boring, because the things will remain the same, so even though the configuration changes. So apart from these three, so I will give you an overview on something called as AutoRabbit as well. So AutoRabbit is also is an automated tool similar to Copado. So when it comes to the automated tools available in the market, there are a lot of automated tools available. So we are going to cover Copado in very detail, and when it comes to AutoRabbit, I will give you a overview of how we can set up the CI/CD process for a Salesforce project using AutoRabbit as well. Now, these are the things which we are going to cover as part of this particular course. So it will take around some 25 days. So each session will last for it will last something between 1 hour to 1 hour 30 minutes. We are going to complete the course in some 25 days. And one more thing is when it comes to learning these tools, what happens is when covering these tools, what happens is I will take the examples of real-time requirements, and we will learn all of these tools by doing those real-time requirements. And when it comes to these three tools, we will set up the process similar to real-time projects, and we will take the examples of the real-time requests whichever we get, and we will learn the things in that way. And one more thing is when it comes to learning these tools, so we have trial versions available. There are trial versions available for each of these tools. We will make use of those trial versions in order to like in order to understand or practice with the help of these tools. So yeah, so these are the things which we are going to cover as part of this particular course. Now I will give you some 5 minutes. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Suppose that I will show you like how we can migrate the code using Workbench.
Sai, what about the lightning tool?
Lightning.
Yeah, lightning is what, like it's in Salesforce, right? Lightning framework or lightning is a tool, I don't know, but it's in
Okay.
demand. Yeah.
Lightning. So Lightning framework is something that is related to developer. That's not related to our role. So it is related to developers.
Think
Hello.
she's talking about LWC.
So Nilima, when it comes to 1 minute, so I'm not sure like whether Nilima understood my answer
Yeah.
or not.
No, I'm not getting you. Yeah, you was in mute.
So you asked me like what is mean by Lightning framework, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when it comes to the development on Salesforce platform, what happens is like we have two modes. One is the classic version, and the other one is Lightning version. So classic version like is an outdated version. So like it is nothing but it is like classic mode is nothing but it is a UI mode, and we have something called as Lightning as well. So when it comes to the development of application on Salesforce platform, we can make use of any of these two modes, either the classic mode or Lightning mode. So like we as a DevOps engineer, we are not required to have any knowledge on how we can develop the things. So we are just required to have knowledge on how we can migrate the things from one environment to another environment. So like I will show you like those two modes, like how the classic mode and the Lightning mode looks like. But you are not required to have knowledge on what it means by Lightning framework and what are all the features of a Lightning framework. That is a developer thing.
Okay, okay, got it, got it. Yeah, thank.
Yeah. Okay. Someone were asking some other
Yes,
thing.
I was asking the question.
Yeah.
Is Flowsum required? Is Flowsum similar to Copado or it is different?
Like similarities in the sense like there are few similarities, so it is also one of the automated tool, but when it comes to these automated or ISP tools, Copado is the most widely used tool in the market. So after Copado there is something called as GearSet, and we have something called as AutoRabbit as well. So after Copado, GearSet is the most widely used tool, and after that we have something called as AutoRabbit. So apart from these three, so there are some 20 to 30 different types of tools is available in the market. So Flowsum is one such type of tool. Like we are not going to
Okay,
cover Flowsum because the reason for that is like once you get an understanding on how we can set up the process using one tool, so definitely you will be in a position to set up the things using other tools as well. So you will find that once we see the two variants of Copado. So because Copado has two variants, one is Copado Enterprise and the other one is Copado Essentials. So when we cover those two variants, definitely like you will gain the confidence to set up the process using other tools as well. When it comes to Flowsums, like Flowsum is not one of the most widely used tools. It will be used, but like the number of openings in the market will be less when we compare it with Copado.
okay. And
Yeah. So
is SFDS DX is required for this? Uh,
yes, you should have knowledge on SFDX because even when it comes to Copado, like on the bottom, even Copado will make use of SFDX.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So without
Thank you.
understanding, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hi, Sai.
yeah.
Yeah, is this 25 days enough for the course?
25 days, what happens like daily session time will be something between 1 to 1.5 hour. Yeah. So it will be enough. We'll
Enough.
be able
And
to
is
cover.
there a certification? Is there a Salesforce certification called as Salesforce DevOps certification?
So like we don't have any DevOps certificate, but yeah, so there is one certificate related to the DevOps role. So but that is related to architect role. So there is something called as deployment lifecycle and development architect certificate.
Can
Deployment
we can we
lifecycle.
can we appear for that certification after the course?
So after that course, like you need to also understand a few other terms as well. So like that certification is for architect, but the certification which you can do is on Copado we have lot of certificates, and similar to the Copado certificates, each tool has its own certification. You can do those certifications after the course.
Can you repeat it again? What you're saying?
So when it comes to the
The
certification,
certification name.
the development lifecycle and deployment architect. So there is
Okay, so
one certificate.
my, my question, sorry to interrupt, Sai. My question is
Hmm.
this. So when you talk about the certification on Copado and the other thing, are this
Hmm.
certification recognized by Salesforce or these are private certifications by the
So
company?
all of these are private certificates. So like for Salesforce, we don't have as of now, we don't have any separate certificate for DevOps role. But recently they have launched something called as development lifecycle and deployment architect certificate. So that is somewhat related to that is related to our role.
Mm.
Oh, okay, okay. But this training will not prepare us for that certificate.
No, no, no. That we are not going to train you on how you can crack that certificate. So, but definitely, like with the inputs, you can explore on few other things, and you can take that certificate if you are interested.
So what does Salesforce advanced certification administration cover?
So,
Because
administrator
Salesforce got an admin
certificate.
certification and they've also got an advanced administrator.
Mm, yeah, yeah. So, admin is like when we take admin certificate, there are two variants. One is you can consider them as level 1 and level 2. So, the advanced is the level 2, and the norm
Okay.
Salesforce administrator, yeah. So, it is the level 1.
So level two does not cover this DevOps concept.
No, those are related to the roles of administrators and developers.
Okay.
Those
Hi, Sai.
certificates are related. Hmm.
Good morning. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I have experience of 2 years, and till date I have done 4 go lives in production deployments. So till now I
Hmm.
have used Bitbucket and Workbench, Directive ES Code, chain sets, SFDX, Delta, everything in package XML generation. But
Okay.
where I'm stuck is during CI/CD. Like my company wants Jenkins for the CI/CD. So what is the difference between Autorabbit and Jenkins?
So when it comes to the difference, like Autorabbit is a licensed tool, and Jenkins is a open source tool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like
So
in this course, is Jenkins covered? Because
no, no, no,
Autorabbit is
we are
little
not going to.
expensive.
Sorry.
Like Autorabbit is little expensive, right? It is charged, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And
Yeah,
second,
so yeah, it is expensive, but we are not going to cover Jenkins as part of this particular course. So the reason why I have chosen only those three tools, those are the most frequently used tools on the Salesforce platform. So when it comes to Jenkins, there are few companies, like there are few projects which are making use of Jenkins, but the number is very less.
okay.
Even though
So
if you take the openings outside, like there are very few openings where you will be asked to have knowledge on Jenkins.
okay, is it too difficult compared to Autorabbit? Is it too difficult to configure Jenkins?
Yeah, it's somewhat difficult because AutoRabbit is when it comes to AutoRabbit, so everything you can do just by point and clicking.
Okay,
Yeah, so when it comes to Jenkins, like you need to have knowledge on scripting knowledges as well.
okay. So
Yeah,
in it means Autorabbit is UI configured, like
yes,
clickable.
yes,
Okay,
yes, it's clickable.
okay, that's it.
Even
Hi, Sai, I have one doubt regarding these tools, Copado and AutoRabbit. These are paid ones, or how we can configure
So
in our
for
system?
Copado, so that the enterprise one is a licensed one. So like the version which we use in real time, will be like we need to pay for that one. So, but we have trial accounts also available, which we can make use for practice. When it comes to
Oh.
AutoRabbit, we don't even have a trial account, so it is a strictly licensed tool.
So how can we practice then after the sessions if
So
you
for
are using
Copado,
AutoRabbit?
so
Yeah.
yeah, so for Copado, what I'm saying is like it will be possible to create a trial account. So you can create the trial account and you can practice making use of that trial account.
Okay.
For Auto Rabbit, we don't have that feasibility. But for all the rest of the other tools which we are going to cover as part of this particular course, so we can create trial accounts. Only for Auto
Sai,
Rabbit, you can't create a trial account.
okay, Sai, sorry to
Okay.
disturb
Thanks.
you, but I have one question. Like apart from this course, like you guys covered resume writing and other support, like assistant.
Resume, sample resumes. Okay, so like I can if you want, you can let me know post the course. I can share you like a sample resume.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sai, Sai on
And
the
what
same.
about the
Whatever the
job assistance? Like you guys provide any guide in US? Like you have any sales and marketing team here?
yeah, so you can check these things like offline with the institute people, like they will explain you.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Sai, since you mentioned about AutoRabbit is a fully paid version, would it
Hmm.
be a good idea for us to just give us a understanding of AutoRabbit and train us on a free version as well, so that we can practice like Jenkins or something? Because after you complete the course, we won't be able to practice on AutoRabbit.
Hmm.
So, so can you possibly give us a review as a brief idea as to what AutoRabbit is and train us on something which is a free open source?
So like the problem is, yeah, so I am going to give a overview on how the things can be set up using AutoRabbit, but there is no free version available for AutoRabbit.
No, so can you train us on some free version so that after the completion of the course we can at least do some practice on the free version?
Yes, yes. So
Because
like when it comes to Copado Essentials, like these are trial accounts. You can make use of these accounts in order to practice the things.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so those are trial accounts. You can definitely make use of them in order to practice. So like the problem is only with AutoRabbit. Apart from that, all of the other things you can practice.
thanks, Sai. Thanks, thank you for the explanation.
No problem.
I have one question, Manoj here.
Yeah,
Yeah, hi, Sai, Manoj here.
yeah, Manoj, please tell me.
So in the Copado, we'll be doing end-to-end setup deployment gates, or
Yes,
how
end
we
to
are
end.
going to
So
do the Copado.
yeah, yes, yes. We'll consider the case of. So we'll consider the case of setting up the CI/CD process for a Salesforce project, for a fresh Salesforce project, and we will do all of the things which are required to be done from scratch.
Means the real time, right? The deployment that we follow. For
Your voice was not clear. Can you repeat the statement again?
I'm I'm saying we will be doing the real time setup
Yes, yes,
that is required, including quality gates, static code,
yes, yes.
apex testing,
Everything
everything
we are
that
going to cover.
thing.
Yes, we are going to cover almost all of the features of Copado tool. So you can go through this course content document. So I have listed all of the things that we are going to cover as part of Copado tool. So you can get this document and you can go through the content.
I have one
And do you
question.
also assist for the real time interview questions that we
So
have
you can speak that
scenario
with
based?
the institute people offline.
Sai, real-time
They will guide you
questions,
on that.
real-time
Yeah.
scenarios in the sense. So what will be the real-time scenarios like test class failures, these kind of things?
So test class failures, yeah. So that is one kind of real-time scenario. So I think you have some knowledge on Salesforce platform, right? Like I hope
Yes.
you have knowledge on yeah. So real-time scenarios in the sense when it comes to Salesforce, like the different types of components, we have something called as profiles, permissions, sets. Like there are few types of things which you should be aware of, like while when you deploy a brand new profile and when you deploy just the profile permissions, and there are few rules which you should be aware of, like how we can migrate deleted components and how we can migrate record type and pick list value assignments.
Yeah.
So So these are some of the things which you should be aware of.
And as Ayush asked, we are also using Jenkins only. So if possible, you can just tell one or two sessions on Jenkins as well.
So Jenkins, to be honest, we are not going to cover Jenkins as part of this particular course. So even I don't have a real-time experience on Jenkins. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, hello Sai.
Yeah.
Yeah. As part of this one course, we are learning building the applications from scratch, or it's already implemented applications, and we are migrating those applications as part of enhancement or development. In real time, I am asking like how it will be like the things we will get from the project. Already developed applications, some migrations are there. We are doing that migrations, or from scratch we are building the application and we are testing, and everything we will have to do in real time scenarios.
Both will happen. So in
Okay.
real-time project, what happens like you will see both kind of cases. You will see migration of components from for fresh projects as well as for
Okay.
existing projects.
Okay. In general, some MNCs, big companies, usually enhancement things will be there, and some little some changes may be there, right? But not from the scratch, right?
Yeah, so in majority of the companies, what happens is like you'll get a chance to work on some existing application itself, but you
Okay.
also see a case of fresh projects as
Okay. Both cases will happen
well.
from scratch and
Both cases will
okay.
happen.
Okay. Thank
Okay, so if there are no questions, what I will do next is, so I will show you how we can migrate things using Workbench. So like I will take some 20 to 25 minutes. Suppose that we can disconnect. So what I will do is, so I will show you how we can migrate things using a tool called as Workbench. So in order to do this, what I will do is I will take I will create two environments. So I will consider one as dev and I will consider the other as QA. So like I will create a component in dev and I will show you how I can we can migrate that particular component to QA using dev. So in order to do that, looks like most of you have some kind of knowledge on Salesforce platform, but few might not have any knowledge on the Salesforce. So for those people who doesn't have any knowledge on Salesforce, what I will do is while creating the component, so I will tell you the purpose and purpose as well as how we can create that particular component so that it will help you while practicing. So now what I will do is first thing is like we need to have these two environments. So as of like I already have these two environments, but for people who doesn't know how we can create a Salesforce trial account, so let me show you the steps that you should follow. So now when it comes to the different types of Salesforce accounts, we have a few types of Salesforce accounts. So one is developer edition and the other one is unlimited edition, and we have something called as professional edition, and we have something called as essentials. Similarly, there is one more edition as well. I think its name is standard. So now, what are these editions are nothing but these are the types of Salesforce account. So if you take an example of most of the applications, we will see something called as basic application and a premium application. So premium application, what happens there will be a lot of features which won't be available in a basic version of the particular application. So these editions are nothing but these are the types of Salesforce accounts. So all of these, apart from the developer edition, So rest of all of the other editions are premium accounts. Like the premium accounts, these are paid accounts. When it comes to developer edition, so it is a free types of Salesforce account. So for practicing, we can make use of these developer edition accounts. Now, what I will do is I will show you, for those who doesn't have knowledge on Salesforce, I will show you how we can create developer edition account. So what you can do is you can simply type in developer edition in browser. So you can type in developer edition. So if you type in developer edition Salesforce, so you'll find this link called as developer edition sign up. You can click on this link. So what happens is clicking on that link will redirect you to a page where you will be asked to enter few details. So these are very basic details. Like you should enter your name, email address, and these things can be some dummy values. Like the role and company name can be some dummy values. So these are very basic things. So after filling these details, while providing a value for username, make sure that it will be in this particular format. So the format, the accepted format of username is something at the rate something dot something. So this something can be anything. So the format should be in this particular manner. So whichever is highlighted here. So after doing this, once you click on this particular checkbox and click on sign me up, what happens is you will receive an email uh, which ask you to verify this particular account which got created. So when you click on that, there will be a link in the email whichever you receive. Clicking on that link, what happens is it will ask you to set a password, and it will also ask you to set up a security question as well. So you'll set up the password and the security question. So once you do that, so the next thing is, once you do that, what happens is your account gets created. So once you have an account created, how you can log into the Salesforce developer edition account is, so by using this URL called as login.salesforce.com. So once the account gets created, so in order to log into the Salesforce developer edition account, so you can type in login.salesforce.com, and what happens is it will redirect you to a page where you will be asked to enter the username and password. So username will be the username whichever you provide on the sign up page, and password will be the password whichever you set. Now what I will do is I will log into one org which I already have. So I will log into one of these orgs. So I will consider this as the development environment. What I will do is I will create a component, or I will create a component in this particular development environment, and I will show you how we can migrate the component from the development environment to QA environment. So I also have the QA environment as well. So what I will do is let me log into the QA environment in an incognito window. So I'll log into the QA environment which I have here in incognito mode. Let me switch back here. So now what I will do is I will create an object, and I will create a component whose type is object. For someone who doesn't have any knowledge on Salesforce prior, so don't worry. So I will also show you the steps how we can create a component. So the page, as of now, what is happening here is I have logged into this particular developer edition account, and so this is the page where I am. So this particular page which you are seeing on my screen will be called as setup homepage. So in order to do lot of things in a Salesforce environment, we will frequently visit this particular page. So in order to access lot of features in a Salesforce environment, we will make use of setup homepage. So this particular page will be called as setup homepage. As of now, I am on setup homepage. So if you want to create an object, so how you can do that is, so you can click on object manager. So clicking on object manager, what happens is it will display all of the objects that are present in this particular environment. So one more thing is, so in Salesforce terminology, there are different names which can be used for environment. So environment can also be called as organization, or org in short, or it can also be called as sandbox, or it can also be called as server as well. But people won't use this term for Salesforce environments, but it can be called using any of these names. Now going forward, frequently I will use the term org. So org is nothing but environment. Now, what happens when you click on object manager is it will display all of the objects that are present in this particular pod. Now what I will do is let's forget about the objects that are present. So let me try to create an object. So as of now, like I clicked on object manager, and after clicking on object manager, so I'm clicking on this create button and I'm selecting this custom object. Like I clicked on custom object. So here, so in this particular page, it will ask us to provide a name for the object with which the object should be created. So what I will do is I will name this object as demo object, and for this, let me name the plural as. So this is nothing but like in Salesforce, when you create few types of components, it will also ask you to provide the plural label as well. So like it is how the Salesforce platform is configured. So like while creating a few types of components, you will be asked to do that. So like for plural label, I named it as demo objects. So that's it. So there are few other like there are a lot of other options that are getting visible here. Forget about all of these options. So like we'll come here later. As of now, like I just gave the name for this particular object. Like I gave value for label as well as plural label, and I'm clicking on save. Now, so what happened is like I created a component. So this component, the type of this particular component is object. So now when it comes to like the components on Salesforce platform, so what happens is like every component will have uh, two things. In order to migrate a component, so like migrate a component from one environment to another environment, we will be making use of two things. One is name, like every component will have a name associated with it, as well as every component will also have a type associated with it. So this type will also be called as metadata type as well. Now, in order to migrate a component from one environment to another environment, you should be aware of these two things, the name of the component as well as the type of the component. Now, so let's assume that I got a request. So let's assume that, let me frame a request. So I got a request to migrate a component from dev environment to QA environment. So the requester, what the requester did is, so like he specified the details of the details of the component in this manner. So for name, what he did is he specified the name as this one. Like I just copied the API name here. So I'll tell you the meaning of API name later. So let's assume that I got a request in this manner, and for type, he specified the type as custom object. Let's assume that I got a request in this manner. So through an email, I got a request in this manner, and that particular request says I need to migrate the component from dev environment to QA environment, and these are the details of that particular component. So like he specified the name of the component as well as the type of the component. Now, once you know the name and type of the component, the next thing is like if you want to migrate component using workbench, you need to prepare a file which is called as package.xml. So you need to prepare an XML file. So in this XML file, you should specify the components that needs to be migrated. Now, so like in order to prepare this particular XML file, so what you can do is like you can simply refer the Salesforce documentations. Like there is a standard Salesforce documentation which can be referred while preparing the package.xml. So what I did is like I am typing in sample package.xml Salesforce, and I open the standard Salesforce documentation available. So like I have chosen this particular link. So when I clicked on this, so here what is happening is like you will find like a lot of examples for some sample package.xml files. What you can do is, so initially, like initially while preparing the package.xml, so if you want, you can directly copy this, and you can modify this particular package.xml. Otherwise, if you want to, like if you want to prepare the package.xml file by your own, what you can do is like you can do that as well. But while preparing the package.xml, so what happens, like there are few rules which you should keep in mind. Like if you are planning to prepare the package.xml by yourself, like there are few rules which you should keep in mind. So those rules we will discuss in the next session. So, but for now, what I will do is, so in order to avoid confusion, so I'll simply copy the XML sample package.xml code, whichever is available on this particular document. So I will copy this, and what I will do is on my machine, so I'll create a XML file. So here, let me create an XML file. So the name of the file can be anything. So it's not like the name of the file should be package only. The name can be anything, but in real time, what happens is this file will be named as package only, package.xml. For now, what I will do is instead of package, I will name it as package demo. So let me choose the location as downloads. So what I am doing is I am creating a file with the name package demo, and the extension of that particular file is XML. So I'm clicking on create file. So the XML extension indicates that it is an XML file. So I'm pasting the code which I have copied from there. So now what I will do is, so I have in the request, what I have is I have one component that need to be migrated from dev environment to QA environment. Now, so if you want to understand this particular package.xml, for all of the package.xmls whichever we use in real time, so what happens is these set of lines remains the same. These four lines will remain the same. Now, what the meaning of these lines is, first two lines tell the processor, whichever processes this particular XML file. So it will tell the processor that this is a XML file. So that is the meaning of these two lines. So if you have the if you have the capability to remember, you can remember these two lines, because these two lines will remain the same for all of the package.xml files whichever we use in real time. And apart from these two, so the other thing is the reason why we are seeing the other tools, other lines here is we can see something called as version. So each Salesforce org will be associated with a version. So there will be a version associated with each and every Salesforce org. So what happens when Salesforce first launched its product, so the version associated with it was one, and after that what happened is 50 some 58 or 60 upgrades got happened. So version is nothing but it is the version number associated with a Salesforce org. So every org will have a version number. So I'll show you how we can find that version number. So this is related to the version. And next is we have something called as package. So the reason why we are seeing these lines is in order to understand this, you need to have some basic knowledge on XML language. So when it comes to XML language, so what happens with XML language is XML is nothing but it is XML language will make use of something called as tags. So when it comes to tags, each tag will have a name. So suppose let's consider the case of a name tag. So this is how a tag. This is the syntax of a tag. So if you want to have a tag tag whose name is name, so this is the syntax. So what happens is the name of the tag will be enclosed within this less than and greater than symbols. Now every tag, whenever you use a tag in any XML file, each tag should have a opening tag as well as a closing tag. So that is the rule of XML language. So now suppose let's assume that we have a tag called as name. So how we can use the name tag in our XML file is we can use it in this manner. So this is the syntax for representing a tag. Suppose if you have a tag called as package, so the syntax for package tag will be something like this. So each tag will have a name, and if you want to use that particular tag in the XML file, how you can use that is name should be enclosed within less than and greater than symbol. So that is the rule of XML language. Now, whenever you use any tag in any XML file, so the tag should have a opening tag as well as closing tag. So a tag that can't exist without having a closing tag. So if you use a tag, what should happen is definitely there should be a opening tag as well as a closing tag for that particular tag. So the difference between opening tag and the closing tag is nothing but, so you will see a slash character, extra slash character in the beginning of the name of that particular tag. So the difference between starting and ending tags is this slash character. So now, so this is the ending tag for this particular name tag. So what is happening here is like you are seeing an extra slash character. Now, so like if you have these, like if you remember these points, that is sufficient for our role. So like you are not required to have much knowledge. So now what have one more point is, so there are two ways of declaring a tag. So one is, so this is one way or one convention of using a tag. The other way of using a tag is, so this is another way of using a tag. So here what is happening is like a tag is opening and closing with the help of single tag only. So like these two notations are equal. So if you want to use a tag, if a tag does not have any contents inside that, what you can do is you can simply use the tag in this manner. But if a tag has some contents inside it, what happens is like you will use the tag in this manner. But these two notations are same. Now, apart from this, like there is something called as attributes. So attributes are something which will define the property of a tag. So you are not required to have any knowledge on attributes, but I will show you like what is meant by a attribute. So here, version is an attribute. So version is an attribute of XML tag. Similarly, this XMLNS is an attribute of package tag. And the contents which we see inside the starting and opening of a tag will be called as contents of a tag, or they can also be called as child tags of that particular tag. So here, so this inside package tag we are seeing something called as version. So version is a child tag of package. So that's it. So if you remember these rules, that is sufficient in order to build a package.xml file. Even if you don't remember these rules, so there is a way in order to build a package.xml, because we have something called as package.xml generator. So in real time, what happens is like we want to build the package XML file in this manner. No one will remember these things. They will simply make use of those package.xml generators, and they will copy the XML file whichever gets generated. But what happens is sometimes what happens is like you will see few kind of issues. Sometimes the format of the file gets corrupted because of some reasons. Like in order to bring the file to the correct format, or in order to bring the file to the proper structure, so then at that point of in order to resolve those kind of issues, you should remember these rules. Now apart from this, so what I said you till now is every package.xml will contain these set of four lines. So the package tag is starting here and it is ending here, and we have a version tag inside the package tag. So XML tag is starting and ending here itself on the same line. So the first two tags indicates, so this is an XML file. So it will tell the processor, whichever processes this particular file, that it is an XML file. That is the meaning of first two files. Now, so apart from these two things, what happens like we will see something called as types tags in the package.xml file. Let me revert the changes. Okay, so in the package.xml file, what else we will have is like apart from XML package, XML package version. So apart from these three, we will have something called as types, members, and name. So these are the 6 tags which will appear in the package.xml file. So as of now, like if you see here, it has a XML tag that is starting here and ending on the same line. We have a package tag. It is starting here and it is ending here. And inside the package tag, we have a types tag. So types tag is starting here and it is ending here. So inside types, we have something called as members as well as name. So now, so the number of member types tag in your XML file should be equal to the number of components which you want to migrate. As of now, in my request, I need to migrate only one component. So the number of types tag in my package.xml will be equal to 1. So uh, starting from the opening of a tag to ending of a tag will be considered as one tag. So the types tag is starting here and it is ending here. So here, so like the number of types tags in our XML file should be equal to the number of components which we want to migrate. So now, and apart from that, so the name of the every types tag will have a name tag. So the name of this the name should be equal to the type of the component which you want to migrate, and the number of members inside the types tag will be equal to the number of components of that particular type. So as of now, I have only one type of component and only one number of component of that particular type. So the number of members tags in my types tags will be equal to 1. So the name of the component is, what I will do is I will simply copy the name which I have here. So like I'm copying the name of the object, and let me go back to the VS Code. Okay, so for members, we should specify the name of the component whichever you want to migrate. So here what I did is, for name, I specified the type of the component that I want to migrate. And for members, I specified the name of the component that I need to migrate. And for version, I think my org is on a different version. Let me check the version. So in order to check the version of a Salesforce org, there are two ways. So like one way is you can check it from Workbench. So Workbench is a web-based tool. So it comes by default. What happens is like every Salesforce org gets integrated with this Workbench tool. So you can log into this Workbench tool using the Salesforce account credentials itself. So now what I am doing is I'm like I have set this environment to production. So here you can see two values. One is sandbox and the other one is production. So in real time, you will see two types of environments. All of the developer edition accounts are of type production environments. So that's the reason I'm setting the value to production. So I'm keeping the default value of API version, and I'm selecting this particular checkbox, and I'm clicking on login. So what happens is like as of now in this particular browser, as I have already logged into this particular Salesforce account, so it will pick the credentials of that particular account, and it will log in with the credentials of that particular account. So if you see here, when I logged into Workbench, like this is how the Workbench tool looks like. So on the right hand side, you can see something like, so it is displaying the username, and it is also displaying the API name as well. So if you want to check the version number of a Salesforce org, you can check it from Workbench. So there is one more way also how we can check the version number. We will see that way later. But for now, if you want to check the version number of a Salesforce org, you can check it using Workbench, and the version gets displayed on the right side of the Workbench. Now, so if you see here, the version number of this particular org is 58. So the version that should be specified in the package.xml should be either equal to the version on which the Salesforce org is, or it can be less than that. So, but it can't be more than that. So as of now, like my Salesforce org is on version number 58. So I can either specify 58 as the version here, or I can also specify any number less than 58 as well. But you can't specify any number less than 58. There are some reasons for that. So we'll see those reasons later. But for now, like what I'm doing is I'm specifying the version number whichever my org is on as of now. So after this, I will simply save this file. So what I did is like I have specified the object, the component which needs to be migrated in this particular file, and I have also specified the version number here. So I'm saving this particular file. So after the package.xml is ready, so the next step is in the process of migrating the code is, so you should log into the workbench, or you should log into the workbench of the source org. So whenever you do a migration, so the org in which your component is there will be considered as the source org, and the org in to which you want to migrate will be called as target org. So as of now, like what I did is I have logged into workbench of the source org, and here what you should do is if you want to migrate any component, the next step after preparing the package.xml is you should do something called as retrieval. So here on workbench, like if you hover your mouse on migration, you will see two options. One is deploy and the other one is retrieve. So I'm selecting the retrieve operation. So here I'm clicking on this choose file button, and for this file, I will select the file which I have prepared just now. So I have selected the package demo XML file which I prepared a couple of minutes back. And there are a couple of other options getting displayed here. Forget about these options for now. So like there will be a separate purpose for these options, but let's forget about the meaning of these options for now. I'm clicking on next, and here, so on the next page, so I can see a button called as retrieve. I'm clicking on retrieve. So when we click on retrieve, what happens is like a request will be sent to the server of this particular Salesforce org, and what it will do is like in the request for that, but in that particular request, so to the server, what happens is like it will provide this package.xml file as the input, and what happens is like the server will process this particular package.xml file, and it will analyze the components that are present in this particular package.xml file, and as a response, what happens is like it will provide us the code file of the component whichever is present, whichever is specified in the package.xml. So here you can see the status of the retrieval operation has succeeded. And here, if you see here, there is an option called as download zip file. So if I click on this, so a zip file got downloaded. So let me open this zip file. So what this zip file will contain is like this zip file in generally, like in real time, this zip file will be called as metadata zip. So here inside this particular zip file, so there is a folder called as unpackaged, and inside the unpackaged folder there is the package.xml file, and there is one more folder called as object, and inside the object folder there is a file called as demo object. So this particular file is nothing but this is the code file of the component whichever we have specified in the component. Now on Salesforce, what happens is like whenever you create a component from the UI, in the backend, Salesforce will automatically generate a code file for that particular component, and it will store the details of that particular component in this particular code file. So this is the code file of that the component whichever we have specified in the package.xml file. Now, in order to migrate this particular component to the QA, so what after getting the zip file, so the next step is you should log into the workbench of QA. So the reason why I opened QA or in incognito window is you can't log into two workbench accounts on the same window of a browser. So that's the reason I have opened the QA org on incognito window. So you can log into multiple Salesforce accounts in the same window of a browser, but you can't log into multiple workbench accounts in the same window of the browser. So here in the incognito window, which I open here, as of now, like I have already logged into my QA org here, I will log into the workbench of QA account. And so before deploying it directly, so let me go to object manager here in QA org. So as of now, like there won't be any object with the name of demo here. So if you see here, when I typed in demo, there is no object with the name of demo in my QA org. So now what I will do is I will go to migration, I'll click on deploy, and I will click on choose file. And what I will do is I will select the zip file which I got as a response in the retrieve operation. I will click on open, and there are few other options that are getting displayed here. So each option has a specific purpose. So we will see the meaning of these options later. I will click on next, and so in the next screen, what I will do is I will click on deploy. So while it is in progress, so like in order to migrate the code from one environment to another environment, like you should first you should do a retrieve operation, and next you should do a deploy operation after preparing the package.xml file. So you can see the status of this operation has succeeded. So it means the component got deployed successfully to this particular or it got migrated successfully to this particular QA. Now if I go to the QA, or let me refresh this page. And if I search for demo now, so now I can see the demo object here. So like this is how we can migrate the components from one org to another org using Workbench. So in real time, what happens like people will will not make use of Workbench, like they will make use of some other tools. Like this is a simple example of how we can migrate a component from one org to another org using Workbench. So I will stop the session here, and we will meet again in the next session. So with the next session, what happens is like we will start with the actual course.
A question, a quick question. Is the QA org also a developer's org?
Yes, both are developer edition orgs.
Oh, so you got two developers accounts. One is you called it as a QA, one is a normal one.
Yes.
Okay. So tomorrow we'll continue on this. Tomorrow
Yes.
it will be
So
different.
Yes, no. Actually, what happens? Yeah. So we'll have one more session on Workbench, and post that we will. Yeah. So tomorrow, what I will do is like I will show one more like few more things on Workbench, and post that we'll start with SFDS.
One question, do we migrate from one tool to another tool also? Is there any possibility
So
of that?
that yeah, so that will happen very rarely. So the case will be sometimes what happens is like it will happen. Like it's not like that that doesn't happen in real time. What happens is like if people feel like they are keeping a lot of efforts on like that particular tool, what happens is like if there is any tool with which they can do these things in a simpler way, so they will migrate to a different tool. So that happens.
Okay.
Okay, so the reason why I explained you how we can migrate the things using Workbench as well is like you should get an understanding on how I am explaining the things. So like you should get an understanding on whether you are able to understand the things which I am explaining or not. So that's the reason I have explained you how we can migrate things using Workbench. So you might have got confused on like the how the package.xml is getting created, but don't worry, generally, like in real time, like you won't be required to build a package.xml file from scratch. So there are some tools available by using which we can automatically generate the package.xml. So yeah, I will stop this session here. If you have any questions, you can stay back and ask me. Otherwise, you can drop off.
Hi, Sai.
Yeah, Ayush.
Sai, do you have anyone in this institute or any friend who knows Jenkins and can teach or something like that? So where I
Uh,
can reach out because I am in need of learning Jenkins only.
Okay, okay, okay. So actually, actually there is one more person in this institute who is also teaching on Salesforce DevOps, but he is only teaching only Copado tool only. I'm not sure whether he
Okay.
is doing it now or not. So there is one person like who used to teach only on Copado. Apart from
Okay.
that, like there are no other people who are teaching Jenkins in this institute.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the outside market.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I have learned Copado and also
Yeah, yeah,
Jenkins.
I understood. Yeah, so like I like actually like I don't have any real time experience on Jenkins.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can't make any statement on that.
I messaged my like. Okay. Okay. Fine. Fine.
Okay,
It's okay. Thank you so much, Sai.
no problem, no problem. Yeah, any other question from anyone?
What is the price of Auto Rabbit, Sai? What is the bare minimum price of Auto Rabbit for a month or 2 months
So I
subscription
think it's $250 per user,
per annum?
per month.
Per month, $250.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why it is too expensive.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, two,
Without having at least trial version, it is see,
mm.
we cannot feel like completing the course. That is the only concern I have. Other than that, I'm all set with the other
So
content.
you are
Yeah.
not required to have that concern because you are going to see couple of other tools. We have a trial version available for Copado, Copado Essentials. Even there is a trial account available for GearSet as well. So you can practice
Okay.
the things using these trial versions. So
Okay.
when I cover the tool Copado and Copado Essentials, you will be able to do the things on other tools as well. You can make use of those trial versions. Except AutoRabbit, there are trial versions available for other tools. Like there are few other tools. You can make use of them.
But who is going to build and test the environment, whatever checked in? Will that be done by Copado or AutoRabbit?
Yeah, so that will be automatically done by the building of code will be automatically done by the Copado or AutoRabbit.
Oh,
So like those tools will have the capability to automatically build the package. So that's it.
okay. Can we have very high level how it goes? Like, see,
Yes,
I
yes,
have a dev
yes.
environment. Will
Hmm.
it be covered tomorrow, or can we discuss now? Like I have a dev, like I have couple of LWC, one component is developed. So when I
Okay.
push
So
that,
you can. You can wait for a few minutes. Let me take the other questions. I will come back to you in
Sure,
the
sure.
last. Okay. Uh, I can see someone raising their hand. You can go ahead.
What will you cover in tomorrow's session?
So, like the extension of this.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. So, like I won't again start the things from scratch. It will be an extension of this.
Sai Narinder here.
Hmm. Yeah, Narendra.
Uh, Sai, one thing, uh, uh, as you said, before starting of the session itself, you told that for this course, we need to have a basics of administration, right?
Hmm.
Do we require any certifications also related to admin or any developer certifications for this part? For training purpose and as well as for applying for the jobs.
No, so generally what happens is like when you get a chance to work on a tool called as Copado, so they will expect, like they will accept, expect to have knowledge on Salesforce admin aspect because Copado is a tool built on Salesforce platform. So like in order to configure few things on Copado tool, you will require knowledge on Salesforce admin aspect. So for those kind of requirements, they will expect you to have admin knowledge as well.
Okay. Knowledge
Yeah.
is okay. What about the certifications kind of? When
Certificates
I
also
was
for those kind, yeah, certificates as well for those kind of requirements. Sometimes they will expect you to have Salesforce admin certificate as well, but that is not a mandatory. It happens in some cases.
okay, in the job portals when I was trying to search it, I was able to see uh like for few of the openings admin certification and as well as like this Copado certification is mandatory kind of thing. So
Admin and Copado, yeah. So it varies from the requirement to requirement. So sometimes they might ask you for admin certificate if they are using Copado tool.
even like Copado certifications as well.
Yes, yes,
Develop-
yeah. So yeah, you know, right, why people ask certificates these days. Like it will, the certificate is nothing but it will add some kind of extra weightage to your profile.
okay.
Yeah. So doing the Copado certificates is not a very big deal. So like after the completion, of course, you will be definitely in a position to do that certificates. When it comes to admin, so that is a different story. So you should have Salesforce administrative knowledge.
Another question on this. Are there any jobs for this DevOps thing exactly, or do they look for developers certification?
No, no, no. There are separate roles for like there are separate roles for Salesforce DevOps engineers as well.
So suppose if you have an admin certification,
Hmm.
getting a DevOps job is possible.
No, it won't be possible with this admin certificate. You should have knowledge on these tools.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So supposing if you have admin certification, and if you do
Hmm.
this course, and if you have knowledge on Copado and the other things, the
Hmm.
getting a administrator job is easier, correct?
Administrative job.
Yeah,
Administrative or
Salesforce
this
administrator
DevOps?
or
No.
DevOps,
Like
DevOps.
if you want,
Even
yeah, if you want to get an administrative job, that doesn't require any knowledge on these things, Copilot, Git, and the other tools. If you just have knowledge on administration, that's sufficient.
no, what I meant is that if suppose I have knowledge on this, and if I
Uh,
have an administrator certification job, getting a
hmm,
job even as an administrator with this
hmm.
knowledge is much easier, right? That's what I was asking.
Okay, okay. So actually, so that is a different thing. So even this doesn't add you like in any way when you apply for administrative job. So because in what way it will help?
Okay, for this we have to go for a DevOps job.
Yeah, so there is a separate role for DevOps engineers as well on Salesforce platform.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so
I'll
the
check on
thing is,
Trailblazer. I'll track on Trail then.
so when it comes to developers and administrators as well, what few companies will expect is they will expect even the developers and administrators to have some knowledge on how we can migrate the code as well. So like
Correct.
it will only, yeah, so it will only help in that part.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Sai, I had a question. Like I have asked this question to my team developer as well, but I haven't asked this question to any like DevOps guy.
Hmm.
So, Sai, I have worked upon so many of tools and all and all. So,
Hmm.
can I appear for the deployment life cycle, that architect certification?
Yeah, yeah. So deployment, yeah. So development lifecycle and deployment architect, yeah, you can
Right.
have, but it has few things related to the application development lifecycle as well. So like it will
Okay.
be like concepts related to project management, like how the like what is mean by application
Okay.
development lifecycle, and how like there will be few questions related to that as well.
Okay. I have done admin PD1 and app builder and Omni Studio developer.
Okay.
So
So
these
actually, like there is
certificates.
a trailhead module. So like yeah, it will take some like actually like the estimated time for completing that particular course is around some 20 to 24 hours. So you can go through
Okay.
that particular module, trailhead module. So like it has all of the things
Yes.
that needs to be done in order to give that certificate.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Like love this job of DevOps. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
You get to know everything about Salesforce.
Yes, yes, yes. So as you have knowledge on multiple tools, Ayush, I think it's not, like you won't require any separate coaching. I think with the kind of knowledge which you have, I think you can
Right.
explore and you can try learning things yourself.
Right.
Like how,
Right, sir.
yeah, yeah.
Like, can I get your number? Like, if you are good with it.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, like I took a copy of your number. I will message you.
Yeah. Fine. Uh, Thank you.
Someone posted a question saying, "Do you have pure AWS DevOps engineer?" So there are like there are separate roles for AWS DevOps as well. So generally, like when it comes to AWS, what happens is like people will like set up the spin up the servers on AWS server, and so like that won't be applicable for our role, because like the creation of environment, and the infrastructure management of environment will be taken care by Salesforce. That's why like there are like if you go to general DevOps, like the roles DevOps roles related to the other platforms other than Salesforce, then there you will have separate AWS DevOps roles as well. Yeah, yeah, you can go ahead, Soma. So general DevOps has more openness when it compared to Salesforce. Okay. So in the last, I think someone was asking me. Okay, Narendra, right? So you were asking me. So you were asking me on to give you overview on something, right? Is it Narendra or
Yes, I.
Raju?
This is Raju. Yeah, Raju.
Okay, okay, Raju. Yeah. So you were asking me to give overview on something. What was that, Raju?
Like, see, I have one component is developed in dev. So
Hmm.
how that will finally move to production using, for example, I have a, because I don't have complete picture of what are all the components involved in this life cycle. So
Hmm.
assume I have Jenkins, AutoRabbit, or GitHub,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
different environments from dev to PA, QA to production. So how these environments will be participated in the life cycle, moving
Hmm.
from where to where, and what each dev tool will play which role. That's little confusing. Maybe 5,000, 10,000 feet is also fine for me. So very high level.
5,000,
I want
10,000?
that height. From that height, if you can give me the architecture, which component will play which role, so that gives me little comfortable.
So, like you want to know the purpose of each and every component.
Exactly. What we are learning. Yeah.
Okay. So that thing, like in order to understand that, like you need to like attend some sessions rather, like because without that you won't be able to understand the things in a better way.
No. I'm working as a director of Salesforce. I handle around 15 people. I got around 18 years of experience in my industry.
Okay. In that case, so you're saying that like you want to understand like what happens in you are I think definitely you might be aware of what happens in the Salesforce environment. So you want to understand like what is the purpose of Git and how the things gets migrated uh, from one environment to another environment. That's it, right? So you want to understand these things, right? And you are
Share your screen is not shared.
oh yeah.
Because I'm supposed to build a DevOps. I need to
Okay, I
implement
understand.
DevOps.
Okay, so you want to set up the DevOps process for a fresh
That,
project in your company.
yeah, and not only Git. If Jenkins is there, AutoRabbit
Hmm.
is there, what they play, and
Yeah,
Copado, add Copado also to this. All these
yeah.
components, what each tool will play, which role. That's what exactly I want to know,
So let
so
me
that I
show
can
you.
visualize and I can assume things better.
So let me tell you two cases. For one case, what I will do is let's assume SFDX is the build tool. Let's assume SFDX is the build tool. Version control system is Git, and we have a dev environment, a QA, a like what happens UAT and production. So let's assume
Yeah,
we have these.
take out the UAT, only production, Dev QA production. That's fine. Yeah,
That's
I
fine,
got
right?
it. Yeah.
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 So now what happens? The developers will.
Please add AutoRabbit.
I will come to AutoRabbit. So this is project one. We'll
Okay.
consider AutoRabbit as an example of project. Now, so developers will create some components
Yes.
in dev environment.
Right.
Some components. Now, so these components should be moved to QA first, and once the changes are tested in QA, those should be moved to production environment. Now,
That's right.
so yeah, so now what happens is like if you want to do the things in that way, we can do. We can directly move migrate the components directly from org to org, but that has a lot of disadvantages. So the disadvantages are like when it comes to like when we have like a lot of developers working on the same project. So like
Right.
with that approach, what happens like if we directly migrate the thing from one environment to another environment, what happens like there will be a
Wow.
chance of things getting overwritten.
Right.
So that is one of the reason like people won't follow that approach, directly migrating things from org to org. So now what happens is like instead of directly migrating the things from org to org, what people will do is so they will first like fetch the component from the development environment and they will add these components to Git,
Right.
or this can be considered moving the
Perfect.
components
To Git.
or Git. So Git, what happens is like it will act as a storage location for your application code, as well as it will have some other features as well. Like it will have this history tracking mechanism, change history tracking mechanism as well.
Version control. It adds
Yeah,
version.
yes, it acts as a version control system and it enables parallel development as well. So whenever multiple developers are working on same project, so like it will help you in enabling parallel mode of development as well. So it has
Okay.
those kind of features. But for now, what it can do is people will push the code to Git after after the completion of development in development environment. So now let's assume that again when it comes to Git, what happens is like for each or whichever we have in our process, like there will be a separate branch exist in Git. Suppose if we have dev QA and production as the auth, like in Git, what happens is like we will have dev QA and production branches.
Right.
So these branches are nothing but in dev branch we will store the code of dev org, and will in QA branch we will store the code of QA org, and in production branch we will store the code of production branch. Now,
Right.
so after the change, like after the components are built in development org, the changes will be pushed to dev branch in Git.
Okay.
So like there will
Okay.
be other case as well. Instead of pushing to dev branch, people will create something called as feature branches as well. But let's for now assume this case. So
Okay.
from dev, changes will be pushed to dev branch. From dev or changes will be pushed to dev branch. So from here, so like our aim is like changes should be moved to QA or. So in order to do that, what happens is like people will create move the changes first from dev branch to QA branch. So for this, what happens is like in order to move changes from one branch to another branch, so there is a concept called as pull request. So pull request is a way of introducing the changes in a controlled manner. So what happens is like when you create a pull request, so it will compare the differences between this branch and this branch, and it will show you the differences that are going to happen. When we like merge the changes of this branch into another branch. Merging is nothing but moving the changes from one branch to another branch. So people will create something called as pull request, and after the pull request is created, so like there will be someone called as lead developers who will review the changes that are going to happen. So they will review the changes, and if they feel like those changes are the changes that needs to be made as part of that particular story or feature, they will approve this particular pull request. And once the pull request is approved, what happens is like we'll merge this pull request when like merge this pull request. So once the pull request is merged, what happens like the changes will be transferred to the QA branch. So now here, so when the QA when the changes gets added to the QA branch, what happens like we'll make use of something called as pipelines. So pipeline is nothing but it is a automated process which will do some kind of action. So it is an automated process which will which gets executed on the occurrence of event. So in repository, like commit is a kind of event. So when a commit happens on any branch, what happens like we can make the pipelines to trigger. Now whenever a commit happens on QA branch, what happens is like a pipeline gets triggered, and it will pick the changes in QA branch, and it will deploy the changes to QA.
Okay. Got it.
So how you can configure these pipelines in Git is in Git, the pipeline feature that is available in Git is GitHub Actions. So GitHub Actions is similar to the workflows or process builders that exist on Salesforce platform. So these gets triggered whenever an event occurs on repository, and they will do some kind of action.
Okay.
So GitHub Actions can be generally like this will be configured in using YAML language. Similarly, the same thing happens for the production branch as well.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
order
It,
to,
it will. I got it. I got it.
yeah,
Crystal clear.
yeah. So
So
now
where
let's,
exactly auto rabbit is replaced here? We don't need auto rabbit. Why do we need auto rabbit then?
yes, you don't need auto rabbit. You can implement the things in this way. Now, next, let's consider the case of instead of So in addition to here, so here, in order to retrieve the changes from the development org, we will make use of SFTX. So here, what we are doing is like we are pushing the code to Git, right? How this will happen is like we will retrieve the code from the development or using SFTX, and we will push the code to Git by using making use of some other application. So the thing is like if you want to push code to Git, how you can do that is you can directly add the code files from the Git UI, or but that is not a recommended way. Or you can get the code first onto your local machine, and you can push that code to the remote or Git server by making use of something called as Git bash. If you want to push Git to Git server, so you need to install an application on your system which will be called as Git bash or Git desktop. So
Yeah.
this is nothing but this is a Git client with the help of which you will be able to communicate with Git.
Yes.
So here, let's assume that we don't have SFDX, but let's assume that we have AutoRabbit. So when you
Okay.
have AutoRabbit, what happens is you will configure the pipelines in AutoRabbit, and you will establish connections between AutoRabbit as well as Salesforce orgs. Like inside AutoRabbit only, you will establish connections between AutoRabbit and Salesforce orgs.
Right.
And you will also establish connection between AutoRabbit and your version control system as well. Let's assume that it has the version control system. So you will do these, you will establish these connections. So after do this, like in AutoRabbit, we will have something called as CI jobs. So the purpose of CI jobs is nothing but they will act similar to the pipelines. So whenever a event occurs, so they will do some kind of action. So now what happens in this way is, like you will, after the development completes, you will log into AutoRabbit, you will select the org where your changes are present, you will select the components, you will commit the changes onto Git. And you can even raise a pull request directly from AutoRabbit, or you can move the changes from one branch to another branch from AutoRabbit. And AutoRabbit has the features to facilitate this reviewal process as well. So like when you uh, like initiate a merge from one branch to another branch, it will show you the differences as well. And the lead developers can review the changes, and once they approve, what happens, like someone will merge and commit the changes onto the target branch. When that happens, automatically the CI jobs configured in AutoRabbit gets triggered, and they will deploy the changes to the respective org. Apart from this, you will also have the features to add code quality tools. You can also integrate code quality tools in AutoRabbit, and you can run test classes. Test classes is a simple thing, so you can also run test classes. So you can all do all kind of things from AutoRabbit.
Okay.
Yeah. So the
Got it,
same
sir.
thing with the Copado as well. So when it comes to Copado, one advantage of Copado, which the other tools doesn't have, is like it will offer this ALM feature as well. It will offer the ALM feature, as well as it has the capability to track the manual steps as well. Like even the manual steps can be added directly to the Copado tool instead of maintaining separate Excel sheets. Likewise, there are each tool has one advantage which the other tool doesn't have. Even these tools will have the option to uh, data do the data loading as well. They will come integrated with the data loading jobs, data loading applications as well.
Okay.
Yeah. That so that's on a very high level.
Yeah.
The,
Thank you very much. Yeah, I got it. Thanks a lot.
yeah. No problem.
Yeah. That really helps a lot.
Yeah.